I'm a really big fan of the NTS DreamWriter portable computer from the 1990s. And I like these so much actually that I don't want just one of them. I think I want 35 NTS DreamWriters. Wow, and here they are. Hey everyone, I'm John with Roadkill Incorporated, and welcome to my series Retro Resale. We'll get to the 35 soon, but just to tell you a little about the DreamWriter, it's a logical progression of a long line of small pocket and portable computers from the 1980s and 90s. I've done a video on each if you're interested. They progressed from having one line of text and not really being usable to bigger, more portable devices like the super famous Tandy 100, which were more functional and have amazing keyboards. And then you have stuff later on like the DreamWriter, which has an even bigger screen and graphics and 64K and is much more advanced than most older models in pretty much every department. But something happened throughout this progression of computers. The early ones require what I call programming by default. In other words, you power them on and you're already up to your knees in programming and technical tasks before you can use them for anything useful at all. I think manufacturers caught on that most typical consumers weren't interested in expensive programming devices and that they simply wanted functionality. So the manufacturers started adapting these devices into appliances for practical functions like word processing and calendaring and address books, and they pushed programming to the background or even eliminated it entirely. A classic device like the Tandy 100 is considered a real computer, and it's famous in the retro community and can go for some serious money. But something like the DreamWriter, those were apparently marketed as more of a writing tool, an educational appliance, not a real computer. The 35 I got all seemed to come from a classroom. They were treated like throwaway devices for students. So my point is, the DreamWriter isn't well known, and as a result, it's super cheap. They were written off as educational appliances, but if you look under the hood, ironically, they're full computers and better than most any of their predecessors. Immediately powering on, you can see the really great graphical icons, which tell you exactly what you can do, and they have nicely color coded control and alt functions. So, for example, you can write a text document. We'll do the classic 10 print program here, and then you go back out, save it, give it a name. Then you can go over to the basic interpreter, load the program, run it, and there you go. It's also super easy to maneuver around to other apps, and it has a lot of really great terminal functions for communication. I'm usually intimidated by weird little devices with cryptic interfaces, but inside of 30 seconds I found myself flying around on this thing. I just love low-end devices like this that were sold as toys, but under the hood, there's a whole other world full of potential. Okay, so what's the backstory on the 35? Well, I was doing my usual vintage computer keyword search on eBay, and there they were. Not a bad price, really, and many available. When it says many available and hides the actual quantity, you can figure out how many there are by specifying a random quantity. If you're over the quantity available, it tells you, and if you're not, it lets you buy, and you can try again, adding more each time until it stops you. So I figured out there were 14, and I offered $15 each, and they accepted. And better yet, the 13.50 shipping did not apply to each additional item, so I got the whole thing shipped for 13.50. I messaged the seller thanking them, and they said they had 21 more, but that those were dirtier or dustier and would sell for less. I offered 220 shipped for the 21, and they accepted it. I've had a couple DreamWriters for years now, and I'm pretty happy with those, but like I always say, anything can be worth buying if the price is right. Do I need 35 DreamWriters? No, of course. Do I want 35? Sure. And when the price is super low, there's potential for profit margin, so that makes it worthwhile. That's because you know roughly what you will get for something. That's pretty obvious in completed items on eBay, but it's what you buy it for that determines your profit window. If you're buying for $12, suddenly there's a big gap between the buy and the sell prices. All right, so here they are. They're packed on top each other, which is not great because the bottom ones get pounded. But on the other hand, the boxes are strong enough. There's bubble wrap between them all, and they're pretty lightweight items, so I'm not seeing any damage. They look pretty decent. They take four AA batteries. So let's do the first power on test, and we have no power. Not a good sign. Second test. Still, no power. Well, now I'm kind of depressed. This could be a trend. Oh, but wait, look at this. There's no battery terminal on this side, so how could they work? This makes me think that I need to look at my existing DreamWriter, and it hits me suddenly. It's always been really hard to get batteries into this thing. And look at this. This doesn't look like a piece of metal that was meant to be here. How strange. So I don't know. Did someone make this? Why would all these be missing? Were they too loose, maybe, and fell out when the batteries were removed? Well, I found my answer soon enough. Look at this. The very last DreamWriter I opened had this in it, a NiCad battery. And look at that strip of metal along the bottom. That tells us everything. They didn't need a metal terminal on the other side because they came with NiCads. But the NiCads are all dead 30 years later, and they weren't originally outfitted to work with AA batteries. It makes sense, too. Look at this. You don't normally see the positive end of a battery going into the spring, but that's how these are. Very strange. I transferred the metal piece to a few different DreamWriters, and they all worked. So I guess I need to make these terminals, apparently. I asked ChatGTP, and it said it's simple enough, and the best material to use is nickel-plated steel. So it pointed me to this roll, and the width and thickness seemed all right, I guess. ChatGTP recommended these cutters, and hey, I might as well get some coin cell batteries because certainly all the ones in the DreamWriters are dead at this point. So yeah, I'm excited. Unless I have something wrong, these may all end up usable devices. But thinking more about it, there are some things I want to try. I want to see if I can make the DreamWriter a functional computer today, in 2024. I want to see if I can use this thing as an actual word processor, and that means getting text out of a DreamWriter onto my Mac where I can use it. One of the great features of this actually is that it has a PCMCIA slot, and it can use PCMCIA cards as storage. But to get a PCMCIA card onto a regular computer is hard. There are adapters, but they're big and expensive and kind of clunky. So I asked ChatGTP, and it said to get a PCMCIA to compact flash adapter. So I ordered one of those, and I have a compact flash adapter for my Mac, so that should work on that side. I also want to try to connect the DreamWriter to my computer through the serial cable. As you can see, they have a normal DB9 serial port. It has terminal emulation software, so provided the right connection, it could reach out to a BBS, the internet, another DreamWriter, act as an interface for AI, or any given terminal function. I asked ChatGTP, and it said I need a serial to USB adapter cable and also a null modem cable for talking directly to another computer. Also, AI tells me that they still make NiCad batteries, apparently, so I got some of those and an AC adapter. DreamWriters get something crazy like 20 hours of battery life, but still, why waste batteries if I can use rechargeables? Okay, here's all the stuff. Look at all the crap I bought. Hopefully it turns out to be worthwhile. Let's start by making the metal terminals, because knowing if all the DreamWriters are actually alive and working, that's the main thing. First, I noticed that the cutters are way too big. They'll serve the purpose, but if I ordered again, I'd definitely get something smaller. I'm using the existing terminal as a model, and I'm finding that it's a really weird mental exercise trying to bend the strip back and forth as I go. And then it's necessary to cut out this little wedge in the center because it has to go over a plastic tab in the DreamWriter. With these big cutters, it's hard to do that without cutting the thing in half. So, okay, it's not pretty, but I guess it doesn't have to be. Stick it in there like that, add the batteries, and it works. It really seems to work. Okay, so 2 hours of super tedious work later, I've made 35 of these, and all 35 DreamWriters seem to work. Amazing. I can't believe how successful that was, both that they work and that also the terminals seem flawless. Make sure to be careful with these little slivers of metal. They look innocent, but if they fall on the floor, trust me, your bare feet will not be happy. One unfortunate thing I'm noticing is that these DreamWriters don't seem to have the basic icon. They have an older ROM, and they have sequential serial numbers purchased all at once for a school, I assume, so I don't think any of them have been upgraded. I mentioned this to my friend Steve, and it turns out he has an EEPROM programmer. So I took the sticker off a chip to get the model number, and they have a window on the chip that you can see through, which is a good sign because it means without too much trouble, we might be able to reflash these from the ROM in my original DreamWriter and get all these upgraded. But yeah, you want basic on these. That's one critical function that really makes these a real computer, at least in my mind. Okay, so now on to this PCMCIA adapter. Looks good, and I put the smallest compact flash card I have in it, 128 meg, and I jam it into the side of my original DreamWriter, and wow, that went in super deep, and it sure fits tightly. So tight that I think I'll need to use pliers to get it out. Sort of scary. So next I go to the ROM card icon, and it says no card. I try several compact flash cards, but no cards still. I format the compact flash card on my Mac just to be sure, still no card. So what does this mean? I may have been naive thinking the newer technology would work on an old DreamWriter, but I have an idea. Yesterday I posted to X asking if anyone knows of DreamWriter software archives, because, I mean, these are full computers with 64K, so why wouldn't there be huge libraries of sophisticated software? And no one knew of any, but this guy suggested looking on archive.org, and I did, and I found the manuals, which is great, and the basic ROM file as well. Digging through the manual, I got to the ROM card section, and look at this. Requires SRAM cards version 1.0 with capacity of 64K to 1 megabyte, and make sure the card has a battery. I've never even heard of a battery on a PCMCIA card, and I'm not sure what SRAM is, honestly. Certainly my compact flash card is way too big. Now this is super crazy. I looked up SRAM cards on eBay and they're hundreds of dollars for 64 and 128K SRAM cards. Apparently these are just insanely rare precisely because there are many people out there like me stuck in this exact situation. Who would have known? Well, I'll keep that in mind. If you find 64K SRAM cards in piles of PCMCIA cards, you've hit the jackpot. But unfortunately for me, I think that means the PCMCIA solution is out. That is, if I can get the stupid thing out of the DreamWriter. I had to open it up to get it out. It was so jammed in there. Apparently, this plastic thing gets squashed over time and makes it virtually impossible to pull out. Well, so much for making the DreamWriter a viable computer by transferring data through the PCMCIA slot. The serial port is the only option left. So, serial port, you're our only hope. Let's try that now. So I connect the null modem cable to the DreamWriter and to the serial to USB adapter and plug that into my hub. And on the DreamWriter, it's straightforward enough what to do. You've got send file, receive file, X modem, all that. The settings are pretty standard, 9600 baud, 8N1. But I had a funny moment not knowing what to do on the Mac end. Do I even have a terminal program? So I asked ChatGTP, and it recommends CoolTerm. Sure enough, CoolTerm lets me connect to my USB to serial adapter, and I click connect, but now what? For some reason at first I think I need to be using Xmodem for file transfers, but I can't seem to get that working. ChatGTP is telling me there are CoolTerm Xmodem functions, but I don't see any, so AI must be hallucinating on that one. But then I randomly try the send file function, and I send a text file I have on the DreamWriter, and magically it appears on the terminal's display. So success. Very, very cool. Now I need to receive a file. I put the DreamWriter into receive file mode, and it asks the name of the file, so I give it a name. But how do I do this on CoolTerm? The open and save file options don't seem to do anything. But then on a fluke, I copy and paste some text right into CoolTerm, and it works. It magically works. I see the bytes accumulating on both ends. On the DreamWriter, I exit when it's done, go into the word processor, open the file, and there it is. Amazing. Next, I connect two DreamWriters by null modem, and I can type back and forth on them. Kind of interesting. I guess this is a way to transfer files back and forth. Next, and this one is funny, I found this photo of a graphics program on a DreamWriter screen in an eBay listing. And hey, I don't have any programs, so I type the program in and run it, and it works. How cool. Anyway, but what a relief. I've succeeded in bridging the DreamWriter to a modern Mac. That makes it somewhat of a modern machine. with some work, you could use this thing as a terminal, and that gets you to a whole world of applications, AI, BBSs, a Linux prompt, whatever. I even saw someone online trying to embed a Raspberry Pi Pico in one of these. Imagine that. Imagine sitting on the couch with a DreamWriter that accesses the Pi inside it and its wireless capability and has a bridge to the world through the Pi. It's like the DreamWriter has a Neuralink implant. Super exciting. Okay, so what do we have here? We have 35 working DreamWriters outfitted to work with AA batteries. Soon, with Steve's help, they should all have the basic ROM. I mean, this project isn't really about money, but in terms of money, I spent $443, which is $12.65 each. There aren't many sold on eBay, so it's hard to get a meaningful average, but they go for $30 to $75 approximately. I suppose if I sell these explicitly stating that they're all working, they're set up for AA batteries, and I've upgraded them to the basic ROM, I could probably get $50 each from collectors who care about such things. But how many people are there really who even know to look for these? But still, conservatively, if I did even $30 or $40 each, it wouldn't be too hard to triple my money. What it comes down to is these DreamWriters are just great little computers. I find myself actually wanting to use them, unlike so many others from the portable computer era. But I fear most of them are going to get scrapped. I mean, how many people finding these out in the world are going to figure out the battery terminal thing? They're mostly going to be assumed broken. And it's hard to know how many of these in the wild even have the basic ROM. And BASIC is stuck in an almost hidden menu, so even if one has it, how many people are going to find it? Not many of these will get into the hands of collectors who see them as computers. Due to appearances and the way they were marketed, I think a lot of these are going to be discarded. It may have been a mistake for the manufacturer to market these as less than they really are, as less than real computers. I think we can fix some of that, though. I'm really happy that these 35 will be all they can be and live on, and if you're interested, I really think you should put the DreamWriter on your list of computers to seek out. Go over to eBay right now, search for NTS DreamWriter, and see if maybe you can save a few. Thanks for watching. So we got the chips here. I got the labels off of them. You can see the color of the chips under the window there. Making some labels. Steve's working on the computer side. Got a copy of the basic 2.0 file. And these guys just got wiped. We're testing to see if they're actually wiped, and then we will burn them.
Nice. Oh.
So Steve checked, and they still have data on them. It's necessary that these EPROMs are wiped by ultraviolet light, so they're kind of baking in this device here. They went for 20 minutes, but there's still stuff on them, so we're doing it some more. And in the meantime, Steve's looking at his chip collection and seeing if there are some alternates we could use, just so we don't go through this process with all of these guys. So we'll see what happens. So we're having a little bit of trouble wiping these. They've been in for a half hour so far, and they still have data on them. So yeah, exploring options. Some random person on the web said an hour works, so another half hour, see what happens. Okay, we're getting there. They've been in here for, what, 45 minutes?
An hour total.
An hour total.
Yeah.
And it failed still, but if you look at the data, it's looks pretty clean. It looks pretty much wiped. So we may not be there entirely, but we are much closer. So getting there. Was that a write attempt? Or?
No, it's called a blank check.
Oh, okay.
So it's yeah. All right. I think maybe we'll just do another 10 minutes and then we'll see.
Okay. There it goes.
Yeah.
It's a little slow, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, what is this DreamWriter crap?
80s technology.
Huh.
It's half a megabyte on there, John.
Wow.
More than you can fit on a floppy. A 360K floppy.
When I record these videos, I have to like redo it all the time because I kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, like
Oh, yeah.
screw it up.
Yeah, that's very common.
Okay, so it's the next day. We've been sitting here for 27 hours and it's just about complete. So we're almost there.
Moment of truth.
97, 98, 99. Verified it awfully fast. And
Oh!
succeeded. Whoa.
The verify succeeded.
Okay.
All right, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Back.
Looks good.
Yeah. There's words in there that are coherent.
Okay, so there's
Alright.
the notch there. That's good to note. I think I put it in backwards once.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm checking and double checking the notch. I'm not gonna bother with the cover.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so you gotta help me out here. Do you want me to hold the phone while you drive?
Oh, I got it. Okay. Or do I? Yeah. Okay. So we want to go over to etc.
Okay.
These do not film well, but there it is. There's basic.
Sweet. Okay. And we don't have any files on there.
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
test
it-
file
oh.
I did for the video.
Neat.
Very cool. That worked. Awesome. Well, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So-
All right.
I just hope these don't take 300 hours of your time.
Well,
But-
like I said, I mean, I'll just load a batch and do something else.
Right.
It's only going to take an hour to burn them all once they're all erased.
Sure.
I'll probably burn all these and then stop and just erase everything.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
That totally makes sense. Okay. Cool. Very cool. Victory. It worked out.
Yay.
A little scary for a minute, but it worked. Awesome. So if you have one of these, just put the chips in there and go do something for a while and come back and it will be good. So DreamWriters live on with basic installed and life is good. So thanks again, Steve. Thanks everyone for watching.